Suddenly I felt lifted, as though bodily to a sphere uncircumscribed. Thy master cometh today. A divine womanly voice came from everywhere and nowhere. This supernal experience was spiced by a shout from a definite locale. A young priest, nicknamed Habu, was calling me from the downstairs kitchen. Mukanda, enough of meditation. You are needed for an errand. Another day I might have replied impatiently, but now I wiped my tear-swollen face and meekly obeyed the summons. Together, Habu and I set out for a distant marketplace in the Bengali section of Banaras. The ungentle Indian sun was not yet at zenith as we made our purchases in the bazaars. We pushed away our way through the colorful melody of housewives, guides, prized, simply clad widows and dignified Brahmins and the ubiquitous holy bulls. Passing an inconspicuous lane, I turned my head and surveyed the narrow length. A Christ-like man in the ochre robes of his Swami stood motionless at the end of the road. Instantly and anciently familiar he seemed. My gaze fed hungrily for a trace. Then doubt assailed me. You are confusing this wandering monk with someone known to you. I thought. Dreamer, walk on. After 10 minutes, I felt heavy numbness in my feet. As thou turned to stone, they were unable to carry me further. Laboriously, I turned around. My feet regained normalcy. I faced the opposite direction. Again the curious weight oppressed me. The saint is magnetically drawing me to him. With this thought, I heaved my parcels into the arms of the Habu. He had been observing my erratic footwork with amazement and now burst into laughter. What ails you? Are you crazy? My tremulous emotion prevented any retort. I sped silently away. Retracing my steps as thou wing-shod, I reached the narrow lane. My quick glance revealed the quiet figure, steadily gazing in my direction. A few eager steps and I was at his feet. Gurudeva, the divine face was none other than he of my 1,000 visions. These halcyon eyes in leonine head with pointed beard and flowing locks had oft peered through gloom of my nocturnal reveries, holding a promise I had not fully understood. Oh my own, you have come to me. My Guru uttered the words again and again in Bengali, his voice tremulous with joy. How many years I have waited for you. We entered a oneness of silence. Words seemed the rankest superfluities. Eloquence flowed in soundless chant from heart, of master to disciple. With an antenna of irrefragable insight, I sensed that my Guru knew God and would lead me to him. The obscuration of this life disappeared in a fragile dawn of prenatal memories. Dramatic time, past, present, and future, are its cycling scenes. This was not the first sun to find me at these holy feet. My hand in his, my Guru led me to his temporary residence in the Rana Mahal section of the city. His athletic figure moved with firm tread, tall, erect, about 55 at this time. He was active and vigorous as a young man. His dark eyes were large, beautiful, with plumbless wisdom. Slightly curly hair softened a face of striking power. Strength mingled subtly with gentleness. as we made our way to the stone balcony of a house overlooking the Ganges, he said affectionately, I'll give you my hermitages and all I possess. Sir, I come for wisdom and God contact. Those are your treasure troves I am after. The swift Indian twilight had dropped its half curtain before my master spoke again. His eyes held unfathomable tenderness. I give you my unconditional love. Precious words. A quarter century elapsed before I had another auricular proof of his love. His lips were strange to order, and silence became his oceanic heart. Will you give me the same unconditional love? He gazed at me with childlike trust. I will love you eternally, Gurudeva. Ordinary love is selfish, darkly rooted in desires and satisfactions. Divine love is without condition, without boundary, without change. The flux of the human heart is gone forever at the transfixing touch of pure love. He added humbly, if ever you find me falling from a state of God realization, please promise to put my head on your lap and help to bring me back to the cosmic beloved we both worship. Jai Guru.
Today I have selected the passage where Yogananda ji beautifully describes his Guru in the chapter Years in My Hermitage. In Master's Hermitage, sorry. Sri Yukteswar ji was reserved and matter of fact in demeanor. There was not of vague or daft visionary about him. His feet were firm on the earth, his head in the heaven of heaven. Practical people aroused his admiration. Saintliness is not dumbness. Divine perceptions are not incapacitating, he would say. The active expression of virtue gives rise to keenest intelligence. In Master's life, I fully discovered the cleavage between spiritual realism and obscure mysticism that spiritually passes as a counterpart. My Guru was reluctant to discuss the superficial realms. His only marvelous aura was one of the perfect simplicity. In conversation, he avoided startling references. In action, he was freely expressive. Others talked of miracles but could manifest nothing. Sri Yukteswar seldom mentioned subtle laws but secretly operated them at will. A man of realization does not perform any miracle until he receives an inward sanction, Master explained. God does not wish the secrets of his creation revealed promiscuously. Also, every individual in the world has inalienable right to his free will. A saint will not encroach upon that independence. The silence habitual to Sri Yukteswar ji was caused by his deep perceptions of infinite. No time remained for the interminable revelations that occupy the days of teachers without self-realization. In shallow main, the fish of little thoughts cause much commotion. In oceanic minds, the whales of inspiration make hardly a ruffle. This observation from Hindu scripture is not without discerning humor. Because of my Guru's unspectacular guise, only a few of his contemporaries recognized him as a Superman. Though born a mortal like all others, Master had achieved identity with the ruler of time and space. In his life, I perceived a godlike unity. He had not found any unsuperable obstacle to mergence of human with divine. No such barrier exists, I came to understand, save in man's spiritual unadventurousness. I always thrilled at the touch of Sri Yukteswar's holy feet. He always said, disciple is spiritually magnetized by reverent contact with a master. A subtle current is generated. The devotee's undesirable habit mechanisms in the brain are often cauterized. The groove of his worldly tendencies beneficially disturbed. Momentarily at least, he may find the secret wheels of Maya lifting and glimpse the reality of bliss. Yogananda ji said, my whole body responded with a liberating glow whenever I knelt in the Indian fashion before my Guru. I would like to end my reading with a very beautiful conversation between Yogananda ji and Sri Yukteswar ji in chapter Last Days with My Guru. Guruji, I am glad to find you alone in this morning. I had just arrived at Serampur Hermitage, carrying a fragrant burden of fruit and roses. Sri Yukteswar ji glanced at me meekly. What is your question? Master looked about the room as though he was seeking escape. Guruji, I came to you as a high school youth. Now I am a grown man, even with a grey hair or two. Though you have showered me with silent affection from the first hour of this, do you realize that once only on the day of meeting have you ever said, I love you? I looked at him pleadingly. Master lowered his gaze. Yogananda, must I bring out into the cold realms of speech the warm sentiments best guarded by the wordless heart? Guruji, I know you love me, but my mortal ears ache to hear you say so. Be it as you wish. During my married life, I often yearned for a son to train in yogic path. But when you came into my life, I was content. In you I have found my son. Two clear teardrops stood in Sri Yukteswar's eyes. Yogananda, I love you always. Your answer is passport to heaven. I felt a weight of lift from my heart, dissolved forever in his words. Thank you.
So welcome again, friends, and happy Sri Yukteswar ji's birthday. And in fact, happy birthday to the Sri Yukteswar ji who resides in our hearts. This is beautiful. And I was thinking of a story which Jyotish ji had shared long ago in one of his blogs, where he saw a very beautiful altar, something very similar to his, and his gaze fell on Sri Yukteswar ji. And he felt it's hard to connect to Sri Yukteswar ji. I think most of us have felt so. And the moment he had this thought, a flower from Sri Yukteswar ji's picture fell down in answer, as if telling, well, I'm here. And I saw there were supposed to be 3 flowers there and 1 flower is down. I don't know whose answer was answered, question was answered, but he's here. So, special day, a birthday of a guru. Isn't that so wonderful that we can get together, share his joy, share his bliss. And just before I was starting to prepare for this satsang, I had this thought. We always say special day. And some of you might know I have a mind of, sometimes I can get a rational mind because of being a CA, and an auditor is supposed to have professional skepticism. If you have not heard that word, it means you should have a questioning mind with an attitude that you are supposed to look forward that there can be a misstatement because of error or fraud. Now, those are heavy words, but well, you say special time, but I was just, thinking in my heart, prove it. How is it a special time? Most of us feel bliss during a deeper bliss during these times, when we meditate. If we can just tune into the reality behind what is really trying to happen here. If you can just meditate. I felt sometimes that I didn't know it was a birthday or a Mahasamadhi. I get up from meditation, I open my phone and oh, that's why. But then sometimes you have hard times, sometimes you don't feel bliss, and it might be a Mahasamadhi and you think, oh, something is wrong with me. Well, it is not. And I just wanted to share one story before it's a Thursday, and I thought we can go through a short reading from the Bhagavad Gita. But I would like to share just one very brief story of a friend of mine. He, much before he came on the path, something where around Sri Yukteswarji's birthday, around this time, he had taken a decision in his life which was supposed to make a major change. You can say a big shift in his life, and he didn't know it was Sri Yukteswarji's birthday, but it happened on this particular day. And he shares that after that day, for 3 years straight, it was 1 year all right, 2 years of intense suffering. Now you might say that, okay, it is Sri Yukteswarji's birthday, he didn't know it, but how did a decision taken on his day lead to suffering? But guess what? 3 years down the line, that very decision which he took on that particular day brought him on the path. Isn't that amazing that we might think we don't know Master, we might think we don't know Yukteswarji. He didn't know Yukteswarji, but Yukteswarji was in action. Yukteswarji knows you even before you came on the path. Isn't that like, it's like I have to tell you my name, but in case of Sri Yukteswarji, he already knows your biodata. Well, so now going into the reading from the Gita, I chose this from chapter 2, stanza 47. It says, action in this realm of vibration is a duty. But let not your ego crave the fruits of action. Be not attached either to action or inaction. And I found something very similar which Yukteswarji said in the autobiography of a yogi. He says, so long as you breathe the free air of earth, you are under obligation to render grateful service. Just an important, not an important, but an interesting and important information that I was reading Swamiji's book, Material Success Through Yoga Principles. In the very first chapter, as the very first line, Swamiji shares, Swami Sri Yukteswar, my Param Guru, and then he quotes this particular line, and I was just baffled, like it is material success through yoga principles, and you're telling here about so long as you breathe the free air of earth, you are under obligation to render grateful service. Now, how does that work when you're talking material success through yoga principles? At least I think, and this was a tendency in me, this quote was shared in the autobiography of a yogi when Master shares that from people whom he had met before, from teachers he had met before, he had got this learning that it is okay to be irresponsible, it is okay not to care about worldly things. And it's a very easy way, and when I came to the spiritual path, I thought, I don't have to care what people do. You get very Vedantic. Time and space are illusion, all is Vasudeva, I don't have to act, I can be in bliss. But well, how often can you be in bliss? You can meditate for an hour, for 2 hours, let's say 3 hours. Okay, let's say 4 hours, but what are you doing for the rest of 20 hours? Let's deduct 8 hours. Remaining 12 hours, what do you do for the remaining 12 hours of your life? Render grateful service. And how should the service be? The reading in the Bhagavad Gita says that let it not be attached to your ego, and so that you don't have any attachment of the result of the fruit of action. Nishkam karma, we often say. And what is nishkam karma? Well, action without the fruits for the desire, action without the desire for the fruits of your action. But it's very difficult sometimes. How do you know? Am I desiring? There's always an impetus. Like, I'm doing something, I'll get this. A plus B has to be C. If I work 10 hours a day, my paycheck should be this much. If I meditate 8 hours a day, I should be able to find so much bliss in my life. It doesn't work that way so many times. But then how can we act without the desire for the fruits of our action? One simple shortcut out of the many things I've found is act asking God. Act asking Divine Mother, act asking your Guru. And if you do so, if you can just check that, should I take left or should I take right? When I go out, if I'm having a meal, should I have Italian or should I have Chinese? When I go to the ice cream parlor, should I have vanilla or should I have chocolate? Well, it might sound silly, but I had a very close friend who shared this story with me. He used to go with Master for walks outside. He would just go outside his walk. He would tell Master, okay, Master, let's go out for a walk. And he would just imagine that he's walking with Master and Master is by his side. And one fine day he was very tired and he thought, okay, I'm not wanting to walk today. But then he thought, no, 5 minutes. I'll just walk for 5 minutes. And then he thought, okay, Master, let's walk for 5 minutes together. And the moment he stepped out of his house, so this is the house boundary, and he stepped out and he was thinking of Master, and he saw a man right outside his house under a tree on a bike, having his head down. And the moment this friend of mine saw him, he just felt Master say, he needs help. And you might wonder, if you were to walk outside the house and see a stranger, he needs help, you'll be like, psh, stop it. Just like the reading, I think Bhagyashri or Mansi ji were sharing, that when Master saw Sri Yukteswar ji, he said, go on, dreamer. I mean, it happens sometimes. But then he thought, okay, he needs help. Well, no, I'm just, talking to myself. He just crossed this man and walked off. And he still felt, he needs help. And he turned towards this man. So if this was the man, he walked here. And then he came very close to this man and then thought, no, I'm just talking to myself, and walked off again. And when he was walking off this time, he told to Master, look, Master, I don't understand these things. You have to make it clear to me. If he needs help, just take me there. And that's how we need to do in times of confusion. Left, right, front, back. Tell me, Master. Just tell me what to do. He just went to this man and he said, hi. And this man was like, who's this? And then he said, hello, how are you doing? He said, okay. And this friend of mine said, it'll be fine. He didn't know why he said that, but he said, it'll be fine. And that very moment, this man started weeping and weeping and weeping. He said, thank you so much. Thank you so much. He said, no, it's fine. And then he said, let's go for a walk. He thought, okay, Master said, let's go for a walk. Let's add him too. And he started walking, and it's a long story. I'll cut it short. At one point, this man asked, why did you come in front of me, walk out again, and then come back and then talk to me? He noticed. And this man said, this friend of mine said, oh, because he couldn't say, I asked Master. This man would have thought, oh, what's this about? Or he couldn't say, my Guru told me. Where is your Guru? Well, it's all here. So he said, oh, well, God asked me to do it. And that very moment, this man started weeping even more. And at that very moment, he put his hand in his pocket, took something out, wrapped in a newspaper, unfoiled the newspaper, and took out a bottle. He said, this is rat poison. I was planning to have there at that very place if you hadn't come. Just imagine if we can act with that desire of asking Master, what should I do? How should I act? Well, I don't know if we are going to accrue any karma if we are going to act in that way. And if it is a karma, it's going to be good karma, but there's hardly any karma because that friend of mine wasn't even there. It was Master acting through him. He didn't even know what was happening. He was talking things he didn't know of. And he said, I had been going through financial challenges. My wife had been taken away by my in-laws. I haven't contacted my children for 6 months. And this rat poison was my last thing. And Master came there and helped me. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that amazing? There's so much power. There's sometimes I chat with a friend of mine. I tell him, like, how is it that Swamiji could write 400 pieces of music, 400 books, 150 pieces of music, establish so many communities, give so many lectures, touch so many people individually in such a way that their lives were just transformed? Well, the answer is simple. He would say the same thing. I didn't do it. God did it through me. So what does this reading from Gita say? Action is a duty. You have to act. Well, but then how do you act? But let not your ego crave the fruits of action. So how? Well, ask God to act through you. Be not attached either to action or inaction. And I would like to end just with this thought that let's try to tune into the masters. They don't have bodies now, so let's lend our bodies and let them act through us. Thank you.
Good evening, friends. What a nice reason to get together, to celebrate Sri Yukteswar Ji's, any master's, birth especially. And soon Swamiji's birth anniversary is coming. And I remember a few years ago trying to Master has shared in his teachings, I see some new faces. When I say Master, I mean Paramhans Yogananda Ji. And he has shared in such detail how we take birth. Recently, I was watching a video somebody had forwarded where the spiritual teacher was saying, do you choose your birth? No, you don't. So, do you choose this? No, you don't. And he says, so he was trying to explain something, but the moment I heard that first line, I said, okay, next. Because Master's teachings are very different. He said, actually, we do choose, when we are born. And why would a Master choose? When would he be born? Why would God, especially in the case of an avatar? Swamiji explained an avatar is a person who has no karma. It's a soul, has no karma, comes with the pure compassion to help, to guide whoever their life crosses. And so again, when we understand that, sometimes we may say this is too far from the kind of introduction I have received about anybody. Why is it important to know these distinctions? Jivan Mukta, Param Mukta, Avatar. Why is God sending them? It is very important because if we are asking those kind of questions, if somebody is like that rare soul who is saying, God, I want to walk with you, through you. I want you to act through me. When you have that kind of a desire, of course you want to be guided. So if God is trying, we often think it's random. We often think it's unconscious. Sometimes it happens. A miracle happens. This morning I was sitting with a devotee and she said, Sri Yukteswar Ji came in my dream. At that point, I tried to tell her, I said, oh, by the way, it's his birth anniversary. She said, really, today? I said, yes. She said, I've never felt any connection with him. I have tried to, you know how it is, you don't like someone or at least are indifferent, you don't pursue that relationship. She said, I never tried to even develop that connection. I'm happy I have the connection with other masters on the altar. I was feeling bad for Sri Yukteswar Ji. Why does he, if only he had smiled in this picture. But why should he? It is our job to try to understand that if the Master has said he's an avatar, what's going on behind the scenes? So when now this person was saying he came in her dream, and it made me think then, okay, this evening, as I think Bhagyashri was reading, or maybe Dr. Mansi, that Sri Yukteswar Ji asked for unconditional love and unconditional obedience from Yogananda Ji. The same was asked by Sri Lahiri Mahashaya of Sri Yukteswar, and Master asked the same of Kriyananda Ji. And you might say it's very interesting. These are perfect saints, gurus. They don't need anything. But if they are asking something, now, of course, we can, I think, easily interpret that we need to move in that direction to develop that unconditionality. But then a thought came to me. I couldn't explain it to that devotee. Maybe I'll give her a call again and try to discuss this point. But she was certainly, her heart was thawed and opened that Sri Yukteswar came on a special day in my dream. This means something. He's trying to start a communication over here. But does the Guru, did Sri Yukteswar Ji first give unconditional love? Now, of course, on one level we know the answer. The Gurus are nothing but love. Unconditional love. But let's try to, I want to point out a story. We all know this story, those of us who have read Autobiography of a Yogi. When Yogananda Ji was praying for a guru, the guru comes to him in such miraculous conditions. His answer, Divine Mother told him, he's your guru, he's coming. Master went with him. Master's ardor, desire for God contact was so great. He says that's the one thing he asked Sri Yukteswar Ji of. Sri Yukteswar Ji promised it to him, but it was not coming. As soon as Master was perhaps expecting it, like somebody came to Swamiji, said, I've been doing Kriya Yoga for 6 months. I haven't had Samadhi. And Swami said it doesn't work that way. Or sometimes we read autobiography, we say, okay, 3 years, 6 years, 12 years, 24, there's a calculative system over there, and it must be true. You know, again, there is no disorder or randomness in God. But again, coming back to, he asked him that, will you give me God? He said, I will give you God. But then what happened? It was not coming. And one day Master packed his bags. He said, sir, I'm going to the Himalayas. And Sri Yukteswar Ji said, what will you do there? He said, I will seek God contact, self-realization. He was so young. He was portraying that for us. We do that so many times. And Sri Yukteswar Ji said, I don't think the mountains will give you that. And he said, sir, I want to explore. And he said, as you wish. And so Master left. And Swami says in the book, autobiography, it feels like he was gone for a few days and then was not happy and came back. Master told Swami Kirananda Ji, said, I was gone for a complete year. 1 full year, here, there. The, of course, outstanding feature was he met the sleepless saint. He asked him for that experience. He said, your Guru will give it to you. He came back walking to Sri Yukteswar Samadhi. Remember, I'm trying to talk about unconditional love that the Guru expressed for his disciple Yogananda. And he comes and Sri Yukteswar is sitting over there and he says, Master says, he says, with the shamefacedness, I declared, sir, I have come back. And Sri Yukteswar said, oh, come, let's go to the kitchen and find something to eat. Master he liked food. Master was quite amused. After a while he said, sir, won't you scold me? I'm so sorry I left you, went without notice for such a long time. He said, why should I be upset? I only wanted, but it requires a kind of heart. And Sri Yukteswar Ji's training, which was very hard, maybe his looks also, that's also part of the training. How do you look? How do you smile? How do you talk to your disciples? But Swamiji later explained that years later, Master understood he was being trained with such intensity that when he would go to the West, he would have a difficult life. But if he was trained that way, then it would not affect him. And so the training also had a purpose. But Sri Yukteswar said, I only want to see you happy. Why should I be upset? I had no personal motive over there. And then here comes the story I wanted to share. For the first time I noticed, Master said, a few mornings later, I was meditating and my mind was restless. Just a few mornings after he came, and Sri Yukteswar Ji said in the middle of his meditations, Mukunda. And Mukunda is hearing and he says, sir, I'm meditating. And Sri Yukteswar Ji said, come here. He said, sir, I am meditating. And he was thinking, why does he call me when he knows I am meditating? Sri Yukteswar says, I know how you are meditating with your mind scattered like leaves in a storm. And Master said that now that he was exposed as to such a degree, he got up and quietly came. He said, yes, sir. And Sri Yukteswar Ji said, the mountains did not give you what you were seeking. He touched him on the heart. He got the divine experience of Samadhi. The interesting parallel between the devotee who had come after many months, has not even taken Kriya. We are trying to encourage her to see how she can come more often, do things. And between Master, who was gone away for a year and came back, was restless in his meditation, was not, you might say, the ideal devotee. We think, I am meditating, I am energizing, the Guru is happy with me, I am doing the right action. What is the right action when we think of Sri Yukteswar Ji? Soon after this experience of Samadhi, when Master said he just came out, he had a very expanded consciousness in that experience. He said, I came back. He said, I was sobbing of deep gratitude to my Guru. He said, I was trying to find his feet, thank him with some words which were not coming so easily because of that experience. And Sri Yukteswar said, come, let's clean the terrace of the ashram. Let's clean the balcony. And he said, we both went, we found a broom, we started cleaning. He said, then let's go for a walk. And he said, I realized my guru was teaching me the key to a balanced living, the key to right action. What is right action? Yes, of course, I'm not saying be restless in your meditation, go away for 1 year, don't come regularly, X, Y, Z. But remember that it is unconditional. We don't have much of an experience of unconditional. All, advertisements come, do this, do that, multiply your money 10 times. In the end, they always say conditions apply. That we are promising you a big thing, very big thing. This may be a game changer in your life, but they always are honest to say that there are some conditions. Please read carefully. We are not responsible for everything. But imagine, friends, why would a guru, what is his birth? What is the birth of a consciousness? Why does he take a form? What kind of reminders do they serve? Why should we be celebrating these days, not just today, but if we can reflect on the importance of their presence, the knowledge of their presence, the dreams they come in, so many things in our life. I think because yoga is a path of action. Swamiji was very clear. His name is Kriyananda, that achieving salvation, joy through action, outward and inward. And what is right action? What would Sri Yukteswar ji have in mind? Let's say if we were training with him, under him, and their teachings are expressed, in a similar way through Swamiji, through Yogananda ji. Right action is that which gives us inner freedom. What is not right action then? Anything where the ego is involved, Swami says, is tinged. It is almost a product of duality. It's a hard thing to accept, but life should not be taken seriously the way we see it outside, because it is based on duality. Swami says, think of name and fame. People say, I want to be well known. He would say, when name and fame comes, you're very happy. The moment it shifts on somebody else, you're unhappy. You're like, but why did this happen? Money. We don't think, we often pray, money is coming to me. What happens if it stops coming or starts going with the same speed that it came, which Swami said would happen actually. Sooner or later, in this life or another, it happens. Life comes, death is also coming. What do we like to think of? But we like to think of life, the positive side. Human love, we are enjoying that. Do we try to go further to see where is this coming from? Swami says we don't even understand divine love, unconditional love, because we have placed conditions, and we, sometimes shall I say, not just that devotees alone, many of us, all of us, we think, I'll talk to this master, not that. Sri Yukteswar ji again, he receives that kind of treatment again and again, but his very birth was a fruit of desire to help, desire to be compassionate, desire to guide. And Swami says there is one thing which qualifies as right action. It's a direction. He says which is without duality, without opposite. He says in that there is nothing called a duality or unfinished business. And what is that? He says the practice of yoga. Yoga means union. Now yoga does not leave anything out. It could be a walk with the master. It could be a prayer. It could be going to the same job which you have been doing. Except that this time the understanding has come. I don't want to do it for the ego. If somebody has created me, if somebody is expecting things as a guru, somebody asked Swamiji, how did you accomplish so much? He said, they said, what is your prayer? He said, I have a very simple prayer which I repeat every morning. I wake up, I pray to God in the form of my guru, through my guru, thy will be done, not mine. And so many times we try to twist the arm of God because he's silent, I think. And we say, may this will be done. May this not happen. May that not happen. How much do we know? There's that joke that somebody reached heavens and was being shown. They said, first, before we go to the real place in the heavens, let's show you the start with the junkyard. And then we don't have to come back over here. He said, okay. And they reached the junkyard and there's a Rolls Royce over there. And he says, a brand new Rolls Royce in the junkyard? How can this be possible? Who did not? He said, these are things which people rejected. He's like, who rejected this? And St. Peter said, it's very interesting that you should ask this question because you are the person who rejected this. He says, Father, how? When did this happen? He said, remember all your fervent prayers for a Cadillac? He says, the Heavenly Father wanted to give you a Rolls Royce, but you were repeatedly praying for the other model, and He gave it to you. That is also unconditional love. Something better is in stock, but you're repeatedly praying for that. So I think again on this day, we have to remember the significance, of course, as Vineet was saying, on these special days, because we are living in time and space. There is a grace that comes. Things like this happens, this miracle, beautiful miracle that this lady shared. There was such a deep purpose. And again, instead of always wishing that, okay, this happens once in 6 months, once a year, once in 2 months for me, let's try to see how we can always live in that consciousness. It's very simple on one level. Sri Yukteswar ji said, finding God is the funeral of all sorrows. So when we start our day, which we are, when we pray, what do you want? How can you make me useful? I often think of it this way. Imagine if Sri Yukteswar ji was staying in that neighboring room. I often visualize Swami ji because he was the example we saw. If he was in the neighboring room, or when we had the row house, if he was on the first floor and he would come down, let's say 3 times, 4 times of the day, he would have some expectations. Unspoken questions. Are you meditating? Are you energizing? How are you serving? Are you praying for other people? Are you reading my books? We may find it difficult. Swamiji once said, he asked somebody, are you reading my books? The person said, sir, you've written so much. And Swami was not flattered. He said, last week Peter told me he has written every word I have ever written. And that was just like he deflated the person's, thing that, oh, it's so much for me. But again, is there a need from his side for his books to be read? No. It is sternness. Love in the form of sternness, which is saying you need to read. You need to overcome this understanding that you cannot. Again, I'll close with this last story of Sri Yukteswar's life, because medically also, these things don't seem true, but they happen. Master is living with him, the training is going on, Master says, okay, and this is very relevant because we are trying to expand our prasad team from 65 people who are bringing regular prasad to 150. And I was thinking of this story. I said one day, they had finished a whole day of celebration and they went to the bed, and Sri Yukteswar said, I'm very happy with how you've served. Tonight you can sleep with me. And Master, this was the only second time this was happening. So he went and he was relaxing, and just as he was about to enter deep sleep, around 1 o'clock, Sri Yukteswar got up quickly. He sat upright. He said, Mukunda, I think some guests missed a train which they were going to take for the evening celebration. They are arriving in some time. I should go down and make some food for them. Are you going to join me? Master said, sir, I don't think anybody will arrive at this time. And Sri Yukteswar ji said, I think you are tired. You sleep. I will go down and make some prasad. And he came down, and Master immediately, of course, got up, jumped out of bed, and he followed him, and he said, he started making prasad. And sure enough, the moment the prasad was ready, some devotees came. Sri Yukteswar ji didn't make them feel like they were late or a burden or something. He was sitting with them, feeding them fresh food, hot food, and they had a chat. Later when they left, or they had slept, I don't remember, Master and Sri Yukteswar ji walked back to their bed. And what did Sri Yukteswar ji tell him? Again, think of that beautiful love. He said, today you have conquered unwillingness and tiredness. Unwillingness to, you're not afraid of hard work. You overcame the fear of working hard. Fatigue will never touch you again. That's the kind of gift. It's very scientific on one level. It's in the mind, it's in the body's habits, it's in the sleeping habit, it's the way we associate ourselves, it's the way sometimes, I won't say disservice, but a limited understanding has been given to us by the things we have read, which are part of duality, the way our relatives, friends teach us, train us, talk to us, expect or don't expect things from us. But when we have great friends like the masters, then somebody's shining that torch on our face all the time. Oh, this is not, don't stop where you are stopping. Little bit more, little bit more. Come out of duality. I am tired, I am not tired. I can do this, I cannot do this. I am rich, I am not rich. Swami used to say, another reason how he could accomplish so much, He said, I couldn't have done it. He said, I started doing anything worthwhile in my life after I had convinced myself and realized that I cannot accomplish anything worthwhile in this life. He said, only after that I started accomplishing. And he said there, whenever he was faced with this question, practically I would say on a weekly, daily basis, he said, I would tell myself, I simply cannot do this. He said, but then I would tell myself, but my Guru and God can do anything through me. That is, I think, what would make Sri Yukteswar ji happy. I cannot do this, Guruji. But you through me, by your grace, by your blessings, I can get an experience of what it means to be super conscious in cooking food, in going for a walk, in using discrimination, in slowly deepening our meditation. Because remember, they could give it to us even after a restless meditation, even after a long exile. But it, I think, behooves us to bring that pride in our relationship and say, no, if you are there for me unconditionally, I am not there at that point, but I will move in that direction. I am making a promise in that direction, because Master must have given him the word, but even then he went away. So you see, giving that word and trying your best to follow up on that is, I think, what would make him happy. And then we need not feel that he has passed away. We could actually count today as his birth. We can count any time. And with any of the masters, the same principles apply. But I think it is very important. Swamiji used to say, in modern times, we don't have actually many avatars. Ramakrishna Paramhansa was one. And then he said, only the 5 masters on our altar. He says, there is no other avatar. So again, to deeply make a study of their life and take a small aspect. Master said, even if you do 1% of what I have brought, he said, you will reach the goal. But we have to make one book, one teaching, one attitude, because Swami said we are trying to correct just 2 or 3 things in ourselves. It's not too many things. He said, once we can figure what is it that we need to correct, he says, then we start making very, very rapid progress. So I hope on this day we can take that blessing, take his presence for the entire year. And maybe if you have a spiritual diary, make a note. You were born today. I hope you are born tomorrow. How can we work today and tomorrow again and again? Because Master said, a guru in the form, he defined Sri Yukteswarji, he said he was the spoken voice of silent God. And when the great ones have left their body, on one level they have again become silent. But if we open our mind, if we open our hearts, if like Swamiji we start our day, what is it in stock for me? What is it in stock for my 5-minute walk? What a beautiful way. And I think we see those miracles, but we see them in moments when our own energy is high. When we meet them, it's like super consciousness. You touch that and a miracle happens. Their communication is received. Our challenges and I think our joy, the game is how can we keep it uplifted? And it is not a strenuous process. It may seem most of the trouble is in the mind. Oh, this is too much for me. Master says one step at a time, one day at a time, one book, Swamiji used to say, at a time. And before you know, you would have come back so far, because it's like a treasure hunt. We need to solve one step before we go too far. If you're already thinking, oh, this is too long, that's not the right approach. That's again thinking of the result. It's not Nishkam Karma. It's very relaxed, it's very open, and one step at a time in our meditation, in our energization, in our Guru Seva, in our prayers for one another, and we will see that those are the things, simple things, that make them extremely happy. So joy to you.